I believe what we are doing now with the English Constitution Society and the seminars is crucially important because we're showing people we do have a constitution. We're showing people we do have a written constitution. We have the common law, and that is what the globalists fear most because it's the ultimate social justice system in the world, which is why it's been adopted by the United States of America and most of the Commonwealth, right? The Commonwealth could still exist if it wanted to, even if we ended the Union. That's the bit that people don't get. So I want people to, if they can, contact Restore, because what I'm worried about, this is strategic in nature. They're like going on a full frontal, right? So think of a military campaign and there's an army coming straight at you, you're going straight at them. But there's no one protecting the flanks of Restore. Because everyone within Restore, bar none, right, is sitting there telling Rupert Lowe, we don't have a written constitution. We don't have any protections of the constitution. We don't have this. We don't have that. Parliament is sovereign; it can do what it likes, and there is no one that is working class and self-educated. And just to make sure I'm clear on this, Lord Denning, otherwise known as Tom to us, right, one of the greatest judges in English history, right, was to a large extent self-educated with either Greek or Latin, right? Because they couldn't afford to do it. He had to get scholarships. Their family, they owned a business, right? A small business. It was a really small business. And they couldn't afford to send him there, but he ended up doing a mathematics degree, an advanced mathematics degree, a very high IQ, and an algebra degree. But by the way, used that in law, right? And he had to pay for that. So I want everyone to understand that Lord Denning, Tom, would have sat there and said to Rupert Lowe, right, listen, Rupert, we do have a constitution. It is largely written, and the people who are telling you that we don't are products of state education. They are products of the slow march through the institution. The barristers that he's relying on, the King's Counsels that he's relying on. David Stark is professor in the University of Ordinary History, right? Somehow we need to get through to Rupert Lowe and his team. This is not me being negative to them, right? This is our last chance before, in my opinion, this goes kinetic. We are in a civil war. This is a direct attack on England, right? He needs to understand there are ways of dealing with this. And Rupert Lowe keeps talking about repeal this and repeal that and repeal this because he's being suckered by the slow march through the institution and these people that keep talking to him about repealing this and repealing that, right? You must abolish it as repugnant law and as ultra vires because it conflicts with our constitution. It must be abolished. There is a strict reason for that in law. That means any stare decisis or any common law or any judgments made under that is abolished with it, right? Whereas if you repeal something, the biggest error we made, and I kept saying it to them people at the time and they would not listen. Listen, Nigel Farage, I've got his number on my phone, would not listen when I said to him, you must abolish the European Communities Act of 1972. You must not repeal it, right? Even Gerard Batten, who's on our side, right? And by the way, he's an English nationalist, wrote a book and he talks about repeal, right? People need to understand there is a major difference in law between the two types of removal of a law. It must be abolished, right? We need as many of you as possible. What I am absolutely worried about is that someone like me that has studied the law for so long, read the law, read real legal law books by absolute geniuses in the law. For Anson says in these books, Parliament is not sovereign, right? So once you start to understand, it isn't necessary for Rupert Lowe to believe that people are deliberately conning him. They're not. They are a product of the slow march through the institutions. They are a product of misinstruction, right? And yet he won't listen to someone who hasn't been through that process, but has read the law, right? And goes around the country teaching it. Don't forget, universities try to cancel me. The one in Sussex cancelled me, right? Like Labour areas cancelled me, right? Because they don't want me telling people the truth. This is our constitution, and especially the supremacy laws. But people need to understand it. Now, once I've said that, hopefully, and again, more and more people, don't forget we got the event on the 7th of April in Weston-super-Mare, right? Somerset. That needs to be promoted. Put it out there. We need people to get there, right? There's another event we got coming up at the end of April, and then we've got another big event coming up. And the big event coming up is in June, right? So we've got the English Constitution Society at Maplethorpe again, but for 2 days, so we can get everyone together and we'll have a proper conversation about this. But from what I'm seeing, there's people contacting Restore. They're not interested in listening to us, right? They're not interested in listening to us. They're listening to the black belt barrister who went out to China, has a Chinese wife, and he's bigging up digital ID, right? You can't make this stuff up. What would be the problem? A good CEO, right? And I've run companies, right? My own companies. A good CEO will put people in positions where their skill set lacks. They'll put them in positions, right? And say, well, we're going to listen to you. Even if you don't like everything that person's saying, there will be something that triggers in Rupert Lowe's mind that says, hang on a minute. Can you prove that? And I can say, there's a law book. And then these people around him are going to, he's got unprotected planks, right? And it is, and our constitution is so crucially important to taking this country back. I might even, we are negotiating with them. If you want to save the union, you need to abolish, not repeal, these laws. And crucially, one of them is the British Nationality Act of 1948 that was put in place by Clement Attlee, a Fabian Prime Minister. That is a core part of the problem. It needs to be abolished. If you repeal it, all of them people still stay here. That's not what you want, right? This has already happened in our history. We abolished a similar act in 1711, and Queen Anne stepped in and said, we are abolishing, making void this law, right? And then people who was here, we went bosh straight out because we said, no, that was never law. It was bad law, and bad law cannot be law in England, right? That's what I'm trying to say to you. Make sure everyone understands that. Now, I'm going to take you back to this. I want my country back, right? And I want to make sure I'm clear on this again. We're a brotherhood of nations. It is a mindset, right? I've got nothing wrong. I've got no issues with the Scots, the Welsh, the Irish, or the Cornish, right? But they have been already captured. The same as London has been captured, right? The only way you're going to get it back and take out the regions, take out what they've done, get Middlesex back straight away, in my opinion, right, is to void the Acts of Union and go back to pure sovereignty again. And the liberties of the English, the Scots, the Irish, and the Welsh and the Cornish will come flooding back straight in. But you've got to have people who understand this stuff, right? I'm not having a go at Rupert Lowe or his team. What I'm saying is they've got an unprotected flank because they've got no one who is freedom of expression, freedom of speech, and has the thought processes to read the old law books and say, listen, right, when did this change? Who give anyone the authority to do this since the Glorious Revolution? And the answer is no one, right? Everything that subverts our constitution is ultra vires.